Welcome to the Debrief.
Your no-nonsense look
At the critical talent topics shaping today's landscape.
no scripts.
No sugarcoating.
Only spicy takes, just real insight from across the industry.
I'm Ben Sesser.
I'm Chris Abbas.
I'm Tracy St. Deek, and this
Is the Debrief.
Welcome back to the Debrief. Today, we are talking about a work culture concept that's been bubbling up all around the world, especially in fast-moving tech and AI companies, and it's starting to spark real debate. The idea is called 996, and it literally means working from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 6 days a week. So do the math, totaling a 72-hour work week on average. It first became widely known in China's tech industry, where it was embraced during rapid startup growth before later being declared illegal. So, what makes this topic especially relevant now is that similar expectations are showing up in companies outside of China too, particularly in high pressure parts of the global tech world. So, from Silicon Valley AI startups openly asking employees to be ready for 70-plus-hour weeks to debates in Europe and India about how long teams should be expected to work, it's becoming a very real global phenomenon tied to both ambition and also anxiety about competition. So, I'm sure we all have lots of thoughts on this. I'm excited to dig in. Just to kick things off, does working longer actually make companies better?
My personal perspective is you cannot compete. The world's moving fast. You can't compete with people working 9 to 5. It's just not happening. But there are diminishing returns. I also think there's like a lot of important benefits of the things that you would be doing otherwise, like friends, family, like engagement, hobbies. Like there's no way you can compete 9 to 5, but there's like a level of diminishing returns. And then there's a whole bunch of other aspects of the 996 that culture that rub me the wrong way, which we can get into. But I think it's incredibly like performative.
Yeah, I think I've got a similar take to Ben in that whether it's your own personal career, it's your company, you can't expect like exceptional results without exceptional effort. That's really as simple as it is. And so to suspect otherwise is just like, naive. I disagree again with the 996 culture, how it's kind of put across, how it's communicated. The one good thing I would say, if we're kind of taking the opposite side of the argument, is that it at least is honest and straightforward about communicating what the expectation is.
I totally agree. I think I'm of two minds here. I mean, I'm not against 996 or high intensity cultures. I don't think it's always a durable company strategy because intensity can be a choice. What I can't stand is intensity as a surprise, to your point. So I think
Mhm.
996 isn't good or bad. It's just like anything, it's a bundle of trade-offs, right? So think about remote work versus in person. Neither one is good or bad. It's just, what is your company optimizing for? What is your
Mhm.
talent strategy? How do you think that your company works best? And so, you know, for 996, you get speed now, you pay later, maybe in fatigue or mistakes or attrition, but those are trade-offs, right? To
Mhm.
your point, maybe some companies can't survive right now without incredible velocity and productivity, but then you might see those trade-offs, come up down the line too. So I agree though on the transparency. If you're going to run hot, name it, pay for it too. Don't pretend you're balanced while quietly rewarding people who are always on. So, say this is 996, this is what we expect, and then pay people accordingly for that level of work.
Being a founder, you have a lot of skin in the game to incentivize you to do, above and beyond. And I think that
Mhm.
if you're going to expect that from people in your organization, I think it has to be very clear what the benefit is to that person.
Totally.
And,
Yes.
is it rapid career growth? And do you reward that in the right way fast enough internally and show people that, look, if you put this in, you get this out? Is it, big financial outcome with, uh, generous stock options or whatever else it might be. But this notion that I hear from a lot of these 996 companies when I speak to their founders is you've got to come here, work as hard as me, who's the founder who's going to make an absolute shit ton of money if I exit, and I'm going to underpay you versus the market. And that to me just makes no sense. And I think you're an absolute idiot if you're someone running a company like that. That's my take. It has to be fair, and there has to be a kind of so what for the person. You can't just have it all your way and kind of have a bunch of people helping you get rich.
I love this point, Chris, too, around like the match though, because I think if a company wants 996 and people genuinely want they're in that chapter, their season of their life, I think that's great. That's actually awesome alignment.
Hmm.
Because so I have this thing, I don't love the term work-life balance. I've always called it personal and professional alignment. I really like that
Hmm.
framing because what you care about at that time, you should ensure that your life is aligned to that. So I think there are absolutely tons of people in, of all ages and all industries where they want to work really hard. They're super ambitious. They see some sort of reward, light at the end of the tunnel. And so maybe that alignment is like building nonstop, go, go, go. And that's awesome. So that is a great place for them. And that's going to be an awesome match. I think the problem is, or the challenge is that that alignment isn't static, right? People's lives change. You move into
Hmm.
different chapters of your life. You want different things. You want hobbies. You want to meet people. You want to go out with friends. You maybe want to have kids or you're taking care of an elderly parent, like all of those things change. And so, how does then this talent philosophy or this kind of workforce planning philosophy align with that? And that's where I think we're going to start to see some of the implications of that too.
Like, I have a lot of thoughts, but just to go back to Chris, one of the ones that I did have was exactly what you said, which is like the dissonance of founders. I don't think the bar is 9 to 5. If you work in certain industries, like you just have to know that's not gonna cut it. Like you, and by the way, that's the case in many industries. It's not just tech. It's consulting. It's finance. I mean, like worked in banking, the hours there are ludicrous, and you're doing it because 'cause they pay above market, and you want to get up the ladder. But the idea of not owning that there's a small group of people that value is going to accrue to in a disproportionate amount, um, I think is just that definitely, is something that I've seen, and it kinda rubs me the wrong way. Like, you have to own that. You have to either change your compensation approach to recognize that, like, the spread it around more. You gotta make it super worthwhile for people to work their butts off, otherwise in a way that's, like, transparent, and just set the right, kind of guardrails, on the time invested because, people are not gonna make as much money as you as a founder or early employee, a C-level, and, I think, like, what the baseline expectation of hours to me has always been a little bit correlated to like what's this person's seniority, how much money are they making, like how much skin in the game should they have, which I think has been implicit in a lot of companies for a long time. But I just don't have the same expectations of everyone in the organization. Like there's a minimum, but like the expectations are vary based on your role.
I feel like we're going through a massive rebalancing, and this goes back to how we're thinking about technology coming off that kind of crazy post-pandemic boom where salaries just got massively inflated across the board. Then we had the kind of 2023 period of layoffs. Now we have this adjustment to kind of hyper productivity and how technology is impacting everyone's roles. And I don't think there's been like very clear communication and like a resetting of like the truth of the matter, right? Like g- a lot of people were overpaid for what they were doing in that time period. People are adjusting to that kind of new normal when actually it's fair to ask for a lot of hard work and occasionally long hours for the money that you are paid for your job. And I think that that transformation across those different time periods, because it's been so rapid, is taking a long time to balance out with people, and people are adjusting to that change. And I think that companies can do a much better job of like bringing like the truth back to how just the employee employer relationship goes. Um, and I think both sides are at fault. Again, talking about the ball pits and the slides in the office, that set it kind of set the bar for you know uh, that entitlement, and now we've swung the other way.
I think what's interesting, so I love that you're both kind of taking like the CEO perspective, and I don't disagree with it. I think there's many industries and jobs where we're actually, if you look at the rest of the world, let's just all gain some perspective. The rest of the world, the rest of the US, like people are massively overpaid for what they're doing, like period. And I love this push and point, Chris, is like we've maybe gotten a little bit too comfortable and maybe have outsized expectations again compared to the rest of the world. And what are really, really hard jobs out there that people are doing and not
Totally.
getting paid nearly enough. I was an elementary school teacher, so I feel like I felt this, I lived this, right?
Case in
But
point.
what's interesting, right, is what is the employee's perception of this. So just a couple of stats that I thought were really interesting here. So 58 per this is coming from a DHR Global, their like 2025 workforce trends report. So they did a survey of 1,500 white collar workers, all desk-based knowledge workers across North America, Europe, and Asia. And so 58% of employees say that they are working too many hours, and that is a top driver of burnout. I thought what was also was interesting is burnout is highest among younger workers. So
Mm.
Gen Z, ages 21 to 27, 87% are reporting some form of burnout. Millennials, 85%. And that actually then goes down for the different generations too. So I think what's also interesting is and I felt this especially when I was working, working more with university recruiting and college students and seeing this bit of a generational shift of even the folks that I was hiring onto my own team is I do think there has been, and you can say this is good or bad, I think it's largely good, like some of the Gen Z going into Gen Alpha, they are really focused on a little bit more of a holistic balance. I wouldn't necessarily say in certain industries and tech, whatever, but just a little bit generally like self care is important,
Hmm.
therapy is important, taking care of yourself is important, having friends, connection, all of those things. And so I'm curious, like, how then this is going to be impacting these generational differences of how people view work and the purpose of work in their lives, which is really different than I think Gen X, baby boomers, et cetera.
But also, people always had to work hard, like, to progress, to get ahead. Like, I think about my parents and my dad. Like his commute was just like a brutal every day, 5 days a week, doesn't matter, snowing, whatever. Like, that's just what people did to earn a living. But along the way, I think people's perception of like what you had to do to get to what end sort of became a little bit unrealistic. So it's not a bad thing to want balance and all that, but I think you just have to understand, where that's going to, on balance, put you from a lifestyle perspective and what that's going to afford you. Most people that, got to where they wanted in that particular respect, like lifestyle trappings and all that, they work their butts off, for the most part.
I always try and unpack what people mean by burnout because I don't think it's just hours worked. Um, because I think all of us have probably been in a situation where we're working super hard, but we're so excited about what we're doing and it feels we're energized and we feel amazing. And, I could work all day, 24 hours and I'd be fine. And then there's some days you're like 2 hours into the day, you're like, it's like I wish I could shut up right now. Um, so it's really like I feel unhappiness, right? It's like,
Yeah.
and unhappiness stems a lot from just like your expectations not being like turning into reality.
It's like or
And
lack of impact, right? Like, and I
yeah,
actually love this, Chris. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but it's like I do, and I was so glad you took this conversation there because I was about to as well. As I think we're overemphasizing the hours piece. This is about
yeah,
impact and productivity. I
yeah,
actually think some of the most productive, impactful people I know do their job in 40 hours a week, and they
yeah.
do 3 times what their peer does. And so I don't actually even think it's about hours. And that's also why I think this 996 expectation of hours is also like really
Stupid. Yeah,
misguided, like, I could sit at a desk for 9 to 9 for 12 hours a day, but that doesn't mean I'm necessarily the most productive, and it's really about impact and output and what you actually produce, and I think that's what is challenging about burnout is sometimes people are burned out because 'cause they're putting in the hours, but they're not seeing the impact, they're not getting the fulfillment, the engagement of caring about the product or the work or the project that they're really putting out there.
As you can tell, I believe that you have to work hard to succeed, in many industries, including startups. I believe that most of the people that, get to this station in life that they like really people generally, are striving for have worked really hard. I believe in all of these things. So you're like, so what's your issue with 996? One, um, the best people in like, let's say a startup are these like high agency, high motivation people who are like passionate. They just want to win. They want to solve the problem. And those are the people that you don't have to tell that they need to be in the office 9 to 9. Like they'll just do it because
They'll do what they need to do.
that's their
Yeah,
person. Yeah. Like,
yeah.
or just they'll work their butts off 24 hours a day because it's like a problem they're super passionate about and they want to win and they're high agencies and they know like it'll work out and they'll, so that's thing one. Thing two is it just feels like folks are like, look what we invented this we invented this new way of working. It's like hard. It's called hard. It's called working hard. I'm like, people have been working hard for tens of thousands of years. There's
Yeah.
nothing new about this. And like the way that you like, it's just, you know, here, look at this picture. It's the mattress in my office that I tweet from for the 3 hours a night. It's like that are part of mine. It's like, it just, it's the performative nature of acting like they
Yes.
invented this new thing that I think like is the one that rubs me the wrong way. Yeah.
And it's like the glorification of this again of like hours is how and time is how I show that I'm working hard versus the actual impact. And sometimes those things go hand in hand, but I don't think it's necessarily one to one. So I think that's important. I also I'm curious, like, and maybe Chris, you have a perspective on this too. Is you know, this is a company strategy. It's a company strategy that leads to a workforce strategy, and that needs to align with a company's talent strategy. And so I think, if you're going to have a strategy that requires 72-hour work weeks, you should assume that you're going to have maybe a more narrow, maybe more brittle talent pool. It's going to turn over. You're going to have to hire more. So, first of all, staff your TA team accordingly. But I also think it's really interesting because there is and again, it's the same with remote work. There is going to be a natural narrowing of your talent market over time, right? Because if you're looking for the specific type of structure of 996, I would say you're not necessarily always hiring the best talent. You're hiring the most available talent or people who believe like that's how they have to live. So I think that's a really interesting point of this too is, as a talent strategy and as a TA leader and a talent strategist, I'm not sure if this is something that in the long term is going to be a winning talent strategy. Maybe it will. Again, I think it depends on your company. If you want people to do the best work of their lives for 12 months and then turn over and get the next person who can do the best work of their lives, that could be your talent strategy. But I think for some more enduring companies who want to continue to find the best talent, this could be something that narrows it. Again, I'll take it back to like remote versus in-person work. Like in-person work is great. I love working with colleagues in person, but if you're requiring them to be in San Francisco or New York, then you're maybe missing out on incredible talent in Missouri or in Idaho. I don't know, right? And so that's just the trade-off you have to be okay with.
I just think it is a talent strategy. And I think for most of the companies that are like truly doing this, and I almost like don't want to use the phrase because it just like rubs me the wrong way, but it's a defined window in time, is my view. It's like from
Mhm.
inception of this company to 2 years in, we're at this like unique moment in time. There's this generational opportunity where like literally every week, if you like are making forward progress, that's pretty significant. If you've actually like in the arc of this like very narrow window, we've actually lost ground because the pace of change is so insane. And so they're like, I'm we're gonna run this strategy for the next 24 months because the next 24 months are like when the tectonic plates are moving such that like we're either gonna be here or here. And so I'm not even sure that the folks that are doing maybe they haven't thought this far ahead, but you know, like they'll outgrow it. That'll be like their wacky teen years where they were like, making mistakes. But like that's okay for them. It's like they don't actually need that many employees, so they're only getting like dozens of people to align to this thing for this short window of time to try to like get from here to there, and then they'll have to actually scale and have like a proper talent strategy. That's kind of how I might perceive it from the outside. Yeah.
Yeah, you made me think that maybe we're not giving these people enough credit, and actually they realize that they don't need to the earlier point, scale to hundreds of employees, and actually they can be $1 billion company with 10 really dedicated people, and actually it's a more effective strategy to be incredibly clear about who you want. Go 100 miles an hour with people who are in it with you every day of the week. They care about nothing else. They have no other commitments. And we're just going to build this rocket ship with 10 people. And we don't have to actually go past that to create generational wealth.
I think you're right too. We have to be really honest. Like, and I will just speak for myself. I think, this piece around transparency and expectation setting is right. But again, I think for people who want to have that impact, for the most part, they will do what it takes. And this might not phase them at all. And it is becoming like this, oh, 996 thing, but it's actually like pretty normal. Like I can probably say for most of my career, I don't even know if I was working 996, probably was, definitely earlier in my career too. I didn't think about it like that. It was like, I just need to do what I need to do to get the job done. And this is the time in my life to like really go after it and run after it. But I think there's a lot of people like that out there. And so I do wonder your point, Chris. It's a good one. Are we giving them enough credit to like name it, call it, pay people accordingly?
Maybe it's
I
just
agree.
a rebranding of hard work is what we're coming to. It's
Yeah.
just that
Yes.
it's just
Well,
that
I will say
it
this though. I will say this though. I do think there's a lot of research though, and this is an important point, is that like the rest pieces are absolutely necessary for people
yeah.
with real recovery and to make good decisions. Like rest is not a perk. I really think it is a piece of high performance that is necessary for a culture like this. Because again, I'm a stats person. So after like 17 to 19 hours awake, there's research that shows that your performance can be the equivalent or worse than somebody who has like a zero point zero 0.05 blood alcohol concentration in
Mm.
testing, right? Like there are real health risks for this. The World Health Organization says, 55 or more hours a week of work lead to higher risks of heart disease and stroke, right? So there's lots of data around this too. So I think like we have to also be not saying that everybody can be a heroic superhero that can just push through and have no sleep and not eat and just be go go go, because that's actually not proven time and time again that your performance is stronger. So again, not about hours, it's all about performance.
It's a rebranding of hard work with like a kind of a performative nature and like artificial constraints that I think are silly, because again, like I definitely blew out 996 for most of my career and certainly as a founder, but the spread of those hours was different. It's the thing that worked for me. And like, by the way, I did have stretches where I worked 40, 50 days in a row. Um, and I was miserable at the end versus, and now, even just like, I always say like, thinking about work 24 hours a day. There's very few times where I'm not. And like, one is like coaching my son's hockey for like 3 hours. It's like literally, work does not enter my line. It's one of the few activities. And it's like, you need that because you need to be able to think about things from a different angle and just, I don't know, like, step away from something and step back to it to like see it from a different light. So yeah, it's the performative kind of like artificial rigid nature that acts like it's something new. As you can, I'm such a hater. I'm such a 996 hater.
Let's go to our spicy takes.
I think like one non-trivial factor in this whole milieu is like pretty profound lifestyle changes. I think you kind of spoke to it a little bit before, but like young people don't drink anymore. They don't go to bars. Like, their whole social existence is, like, through screens. I don't think it's good. But I think that factors in to, like, how they lean into the folks that lean into, like, hard work do so.
There's been this kind of social contract where it's you work hard and you get everything you want. And I think that a lot of young people feel like that's been broken and that you can work really hard, you can have a really good job, and you can be in New York and you can't afford an apartment. And that's got something to do with this feeling and this like um disconnect that people have. Maybe it's like they feel like even if they do work 996, uh what really is the point? And I think that maybe that's causing some of this. And I really do empathize with that.
There was a really long time where you could work really hard and not get what you want,
Mhm.
like most of humanity,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah, yeah.
And then there was, like, a short period of time where you could not work hard and get what you want. And we're just going back to, like, you could work really hard and not necessarily get what you want. And so, like, it's like we're actually reverting to the status quo of 10,000 years, and, like, it's very disappointing, but it is what it is, right?
But I think this is the point that someone made earlier. I think the best people, you need to give them room to like do whatever they fucking need to do. Like that's it.
Yep.
And if they need to go to the gym 2 till 4 every day, but that's what works for them, and then they work on the weekends, they work at night, but they're smashing it out of the park constantly. Let them cook. Let them go. Like, that's it. That's all.
Yeah.
And I think the problem is though, everyone doesn't have that kind of discipline. And that's the thing that's not kind of said out loud a lot of the time. It's like all people's ability to do that and self-manage is not the same.
I think it's okay, mine feels simple. It's like I'm not at all against a high intensity culture. I think if you're going to do a high intensity culture, you owe people four things. You should name it up front, so no shadow expectations. You should pay it and reward it explicitly. in accordance of what is fair. So not no like guilty vibes, nothing like you should just pay it and reward it. You should time box it. I thought this was such a good point, Chris, of like, is this or Chris or Ben, I can't remember who said it. Is it like how your company's going to be forever or is it during this point? And when do you reevaluate this? And then also require recovery for your employees, like real time off, not just, on Sundays you check Slack. So it's 996 and then also be checking Slack on Sundays because I think that is where you start to really compromise the outcomes and the impact that people can have. And I think if you can't clearly describe the recovery plan to combat burnout, then you're not really running intensity, you're running into what I would say is like debt in some ways. So I would say that's my spicy take. I will also say there are incredible people in many professions who work 996 or more. And I'm specifically thinking of teachers and principals, and we should pay them so much more money. So I think that's not controversial at all, but I feel deeply about it. Thanks everyone for listening to the debrief. If you like this episode, hit like, follow the show so you'll never miss an episode. More hot takes, more real talk, and talent insights coming your way next time. So tune in and get the debrief.